Hi, and welcome to the Access Direct Opening Bell, your essential pre-market podcast. In just minutes, get key global updates, overnight trends, and market-moving factors that set the tone for the day. Whether you're a seasoned trader or just someone tracking the markets, this is your go-to briefing to stay ahead at all times. So let's dive straight in. Good morning on a Thursday, and we will start with US equities, which jumped with help from Apple and other large tech companies as investors put tariff fears behind them. The S&P 500 rose 0.7% to 6,345, while the Nasdaq 100 gained 1.3% to close at 23,315. Apple surged over 5% as it said that it plans to invest another $100 billion in the US. Meanwhile, a new wave of tariffs is due to take effect today on many nations, with President Trump also threatening to levy 100% duties on chip imports on companies that aren't building in America. Coming to the markets, the VIX declined 6%, the dollar index dropped for the fourth straight day, while the US 10-year Treasury yield continued to remain sideways near 4.2%. In commodities, gold fell 0.3% to settle at $3,369 an ounce, while Brent traded near $67 a barrel, as traders hoped that the fallout from any US-led sanctions on Russia will not create much impact. At home, the rupee settled 0.1% down at 87.73, but the real action post-RBI was in the bond markets, where the 10-year bond yield jumped 8 basis points to 6.42% on the lack of a dovish tone after the central bank left rates unchanged. Market participants were expecting a softer guidance on future rates, but what they got instead was a somewhat hawkish pause. In other news, Trump announced an additional 25% tariff on India for buying Russian crude, which he said will be effective in 21 days. Speaking stocks, in the Nifty dropped 75 points to close out the session at 24,574. The India VIX rallied 2.1% to finish just under 12. Mid caps and small caps underperformed the Nifty on the way down. For a second day, 10 of the 12 NSE sectors declined, with pharma and IT falling 2% and 1.7% respectively. PSU banks gained the most as the sector rallied 0.6%. Asian Paints was the best performer in the Nifty as it rose 2.2%, while Wipro was the worst as it fell 2.4%. Technically speaking, the market hit a low of 24,540, which we had spoken about yesterday. This means not much has changed, and that the 24,462 to 24,540 area remains pivotal, while near-term resistance at 24,785 is what bulls need to go above to trigger a larger rebound towards 25,000. Meanwhile, provisional data show that foreigners withdrew 5,000 crores yesterday. The month-to-date outflow is nearly 11,000 crores. On to derivatives now, and the Nifty's put-call ratio went from 0.83 to 0.74. While the Bank Nifty's was flat at 0.82. Nifty calls added were significantly more than the addition that was seen in puts, and implied volatility rose 45 basis points, which means that people went home with an optimistic bias. For options expiring today, resistance sits in the 24,600 to 700 area, while support extends from 24,400 to 24,500. Notice that the ranges have shifted lower, which is a sign of weakness. Elsewhere, 1% out of the money put volatility rose more than similar distance call volatility, and that means volatility traders continue to hedge against potential downsides. Speaking net index options activity, foreigners and proprietary traders remained bearish, while retail investors stayed bullish. Elsewhere, foreigners' net short positioning in index futures fell a little from 169,000 contracts to 167,000 contracts. Looking forward to the day, the GIFT Nifty opened 77 points down. Asian markets were largely up along with US index futures, which were up around 0.2%. Coming to individual stocks, Ambuja Cements, Angel One and Syngene were at horizontal support, while IDFC First Bank was at horizontal resistance. Adani Power, Berger Paints and Biocon were at trendline support, while Eicher Motors and PVR Inox were at trendline resistance. Speaking breadth, 31%, 55% and 51% of stocks in the NSE 500 were above their 50, 100 and 200-day moving averages. That wraps up the day's podcast. Please note that this podcast serves solely for informational purposes and should not be considered financial advice of any kind. For a comprehensive disclaimer, please visit our website. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow at the same hour. Have a nice day.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.